Vayikra, the new book of Leviticus, which is the middle and probably the most complicated of the 5 books of Moses, the Chumash. And as the word in English indicates, Leviticus comes from the word Levi, the tribe of Levi, which has to do with the sacrifices that were offered in the tabernacle in the Mishkan. And so in Hebrew, the word for Leviticus is Vayikra. And the whole book is called Vayikra, and it comes from that first word that in the Parsha, that it says Vayikra, that God calls out to Moshe from the tent of meeting, from that place of the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies. Moses stood outside and was able to receive this message and to hear this message from God. And so God's name is not even mentioned, but it says that God is calling out to him. And then later on, it says God's name to it. So there's a number of questions which are asked on this first verse. So first of all, why does the word Vayikra precede God's name? In other words, it should be God called out. But first it says that there's the calling out, and then there's God's name. And then why is the word Vayikra actually used? Vayikra means to call out, but there's other words that mean to express. So if God is expressing something, so there's words such as Vayedaber, that God spoke, or Omer, which means to also say. So why is the word Vayikra specifically used? And then thirdly, there's a very interesting way that the word itself, Vayikra, is spelled. So Vayikra is spelled out with a small miniature Aleph. And so throughout the Torah, the majority of the letters of the Torah, the vast majority of them, are spelled with medium-sized letters. But then there are large letters that indicate something to us. So for example, the Shema has a large letter Ayin and a large letter Dalet that indicates to look into something, that there's that spells out Aid, which means a witness, that we become witnesses to godliness. So it brings out something very, very grand and very, very big. And then there are small letters, and the small letters indicate that we've got to look a little deeper, and we've got to almost like become humbled. So in the first word, Vayikra, there is a small letter Aleph, and that indicates that there's something very important for us to see and to understand over here. So the Holy Zohar speaks about this parsha and says that Moshe felt via his humility, was able to feel and was able to hear God's presence, and he was able to connect to the angelic beings. And the Zohar explains that there are 4 camps that encamped around the tent of gathering. The camp of Michael, of Gavriel, of Uriel, and of Raphael. All of the holy archangels were there, and all of their encampments, and all the names. The Zohar details the names of these holy angels. And the Moshe was there, and he was absolutely humbled. But in order to even enter that space, one has to have humility there. So it actually says that the letters Malach, which means an angel, is the letters Aleph Melech, that it's a king of the letter Aleph, that an angel is the king of the letter Aleph. Now, what does that mean? So Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it means alpha, it means to teach, but it also has the letters Pele, which means it's a wonder. So conversely, the letter Aleph means it's a wonder. In order to connect to the beyond realm, there is that teaching that the letter Aleph teaches us. And what does the letter Aleph teach us? It teaches us the letter Aleph is comprised of a small letter Yud, a letter Vav that connects, and another letter Yud, which together actually spells out 26, which is God's tetragrammaton, God's holy name. And so in order to connect to the beyond, to the Pele, which connotes the level of Keter, of crown, the beyond world realm, there has to be that humility that is there. And so the angels, the angelic beings, are existing in that godly realm, and the only way that they're able to exist in that godly realm is because they're completely nullified to God and to God's will. Completely nullified. We as humans come down into this world where we have choice, and we don't feel that awe of the Creator. And that's why we very often behave in ways that are contrary to the ultimate truth and to the ultimate way of really how we want to be and who we want to be. So Moshe was the epitome of humility. It says that Moshe was the most humble person that ever lived. And there was never anyone as humble as Moshe. And Moshe, on the one hand, was the greatest prophet and received the Torah. But on the other hand, he recognized that everything that he is and everything that he has is only because of God. And if God would have given any of these abilities to anyone else, who knows? Maybe that person may be greater than him. So Moshe did not feel any boastfulness about himself. He recognized that everything that I am is only because of Hashem giving them to me. And so there was another person that is spelled with the letter Aleph, and that is Adam. Adam has the letter Aleph spelled in a large way in the Book of Chronicles, Divrei Yamim, and where Adam, where the whole chronology of humanity comes from. So there's the letter Adam, and there's a big letter Aleph that's there, and so it's explained why is it that there's a large letter Aleph by Adam, and the answer is because Adam was an exceedingly great individual. He was large on a physical level, but he was large on a spiritual level, and that grandeur a little bit got to him, and that caused him to sin, and that caused the whole sin of the tree of knowledge of good and bad, where there was the identification of the externality of the senses. There was the tree of good and bad that was there. There was a deviation from the tree of life. The tree of life is always connected. It's life. Life is always happening. But that deviation of good and bad comes from a person that's saying, I think that this should be like this, or it should happen like that. And that comes from an inner sense of ego that Adam had on a sublime level. Like we can't even understand, nor should we try to understand what Adam went through. In our abilities and our capacities, we really don't understand what that means. But there was that level of boastfulness, and that's why the letter Aleph is spelled with a large letter Aleph in the Book of Chronicles, whereas Moshe is called to with a small letter Aleph, indicating that letter, that Moshe was the right match, the right vibrational match. He was able to connect with the infinity that was found within Ohel Moed, within the tent of gathering, because he was on a level that was beyond himself, beyond his ego. And that small letter Aleph allowed him to hear and allowed him to be called in. So the word Vayikra means to call in, and we asked, why is Vayikra specifically used? So there's a verse in Isaiah 7 that says that the angels Vayikra ze el ze ve'amar, that they call to each other, one to the other, and they say, holy, 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 kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. So what does that mean that they call each other? So the Targum Onkelos, which is which is an explanation, a translation on the entire Torah, says mekablin dein min dein, that they accept one from the other. So the angelic realms are different one from the other. So we've got the camp of Michael, of Michael, which is the camp of Chesed, of loving kindness, and then we've got the camp of Gavriel, which is the camp of Gevura, of intensity. We have the camp of Raphael, which is the camp of Tiferet, etc. So by them calling one to the other, they're able to not just be on their level, they're able to intertwine with each other's levels, which is the ultimate. That's the place of unity. We can only be in a place of unity if we go beyond our sense of our form, of who we think that we are, and to connect to the other is when we transcend that limitation of self. And so God called out to Moshe, called to him to transcend himself, to be able to receive the infinite from the Oel Moed, and to be able to receive that Moed is from the letters Venoadati, from the word Dat, that he was able to receive the holy Dat Elyon, which Moshe is known for. Moshe is known for being the channel of the divine consciousness, the holy divine consciousness in the world. And he was able to receive that divine consciousness because of that small Aleph. So that calling that Moshe had is also calling that each and every one of us has, that God is calling to us, and God is always speaking to us. And the question is, are we listening, or do we have that large letter Aleph, which is too busy thinking about itself and wishing that things should be in the way that we want them to be, versus that small letter Aleph, which is that letter of humility, that letter of acceptance, that letter of hearing something greater than oneself and being called to it. And by doing that, we connect to that Da, to that divine consciousness which is available to us. And it also allows us to connect with with each other, and allows us to open up our heart, as we say in the Shmoneh Esrei prayer, right? We say that, let me be like the earth and open up my heart, because the earth is the letters Adama. Adam Ma. What is it? Because the earth is a wonder that we're able to put seeds inside of the earth, and then a little while later we have something sprouting out, and we have food, and we have creation all around us, and beauty all around us. That's an absolute wonder, Pele, right? From the letters Aleph. So Adama is Adam Ma. What is Adam? Adam is, what is he? What is she? It's that interconnection that we have with every aspect within creation, and within the infinity of creation, which is found within us. Wishing you a beautiful Shabbat and an amazing month of Nisan, a month of miracles. May we actualize those miracles that are available to us, miracles above nature, and to be able to express them within our lives in a beautiful, amazing way, a way of Pele, a way of wonder, our enu niflot, as it says, that God is going to show us miracles, great miracles, as we came out of Egypt. God is going to show us miracles in the coming of Mashiach, which we are on the cusp of any moment. And so to actualize the outer Mashiach and to actualize our inner Mashiach by actualizing our inner Aleph.